It's the final preview for Wrestle Kingdom and Wrestle Dynasty, and we got Chris Samsa in the house, and we got Steven Conway in Japan. We're covering the main events of tonight. We're covering all the matches. We got Ring of Honor, we got Stardom, we got AEW, but most importantly, we got all of New Japan Pro Wrestling to talk about at the Tokyo Dome for 2 nights. I'm Jeremy Finestone. That's Steven Conway. We got Chris Samsa. This is Speaking of Strong Style. Gets me so hyped every time we do that open. Every time. Hello, everybody. This is Speaking of Strong Style. I'm Jeremy Finestone alongside Steven Conway and Chris Samsa, our guest host this week, covering the previews for Wrestle Kingdom and Wrestle Dynasty. Thank you for joining us on the Fight Game Media Network. As you can see, I'm hosting the show today because Steven Conway is in Japan. We have given you that heads up, but he is actually here, and he is broadcasting from his phone for a variety of reasons that we do not have time to get into, but he is here. We're going to talk. We have Chris Samsa from the Sport of Pro Wrestling. He's also here with us. Gentlemen, how are you? Chris, let's start with you first.
I'm good. It's Wrestle Kingdom season, so no notes, right? I mean, right. Let's eat, baby.
Steven Conway, you are in Japan. You left yesterday, and you are back now, and you are in your hotel room as of right now. How's your trip been, and what is on the itinerary for you?
Well, we went through a 20-hour odyssey to get here with the connections and everything else. So I'm glad to be outside of a metal tube for a while now. But yeah, it's 7:30 in the morning here in Tokyo as we record this live. And the trip was fine. The trip went well. I had an interesting thing. I'm staying in Tokyo Dome City. So I'm not in the Tokyo Dome Hotel. That sucker sells out fast. But I am in the neighborhood, and I'm a 5-minute walk away from Korakuen Hall and the Tokyo Dome and all that. So I went and checked into the hotel yesterday, and again, trying to stretch my legs after being in a plane that long, I just decided to go take a walk down toward the area. It's a vibrant area. There are things like there's a Ferris wheel, and there's a play area for kids, and there's a big food court out there by the dome. So a lot of people around, and as I am outside of my hotel room, the third person I encountered, there was a couple walking and then a tall man crossing the street, and it was Ryusuke Taguchi. That was my introduction to Japan as I ran into Coach within minutes of getting here. And I did not bother him too much. I just kind of did a little tip and just said, Taguchi-san. And he smiled and kind of nodded back to me and then went back to looking at his phone and continued on about his day. And I'm 75% sure I saw Kento Miyahara, but he was half a block away and it was kind of dark. But he was certainly looks like him and he's built like him, and not a lot of that in Japan. So I feel pretty good. And All Japan had a show in Korakuen earlier that day, so it's a fun place to be around. I ran into the guys from WeWork Stiff just walking around, so it was within an hour. I keep bumping into people, and so there's definitely the festival atmosphere in the air, where there's just a lot of wrestlers and a lot of wrestling fans hanging around the area because there's so much going on. So I'm going to try to catch All Japan, which has another afternoon show today. I'm going to attempt to buy walk-up tickets at Korakuen. I think I can. And then I'm going to be hoofing it across town to the Ariake area, and I'm going to be seeing the New Year's show for Stardom today, the pay-per-view for Stardom this evening. So that's going on over at the new venue. It's a concert venue. It's an amphitheater type of setup for the Stardom show today. So
I don't know what happened there. Sorry about that.
It's all right. But yeah, it's exciting.
I am super glad that you got the opportunity to do these shows, to go to these shows. Now that you're here, what is the match in the show that you're like most looking forward to? Are you looking forward more to Kingdom now that you're here? Are you looking forward to Dynasty? Is there a match that you're locked in on right now?
It's a great question because there's a lot of interesting twists to all this stuff. Wrestle Dynasty is a very, very different card than Wrestle Kingdom is, and just a very different philosophy behind the whole thing. So, but the match I'm looking forward to is still a cross-promotional match, even though it's a Wrestle Kingdom. I cannot wait for Shingo Takagi and Konosuke Takeshita for that never openweight title. I just think that's as close to an automatic 5 stars you're going to get. It would take a serious injury in the first minute of the match for this thing to not be great. And as long as that doesn't happen, these two guys are going to deliver. Everything else is this Wrestle Kingdom a little bit more storyline driven, and that's what I'm really interested in, is seeing where the directions we're headed in going into 2025. Where is Shota Umino in the pecking order when it comes out of this? What's his attitude? What's his story? We feel like we have an idea of what it might be, and then really same with David Finlay. Who's going to be here? Because goodness knows, after Wrestle Kingdom last year, we found out that some folks that we thought were going to be around weren't. So I'm intrigued to see how this weekend sets up 2025 big time, and it's going to be an intriguing one. But then you look at the matches, Desperado and Doki. There's a lot of good wrestling coming up this weekend, and Mina Shirakawa and Mercedes. I'm going to see Azumi and Mayu Iwatani. There's going to be some. I'm looking forward to a lot of things. As I looked at these cards, there have been arguments as to whether or not some complaints that this isn't, a dome card, like where's my Okada versus Tanahashi? Well, it's a different era, but there's great wrestling up and down these shows, and these shows are going to be wonderful to watch. So I'm excited to be here and very much looking forward to seeing as much as I can.
Chris, thank you for the patience. I have the same question for you, even though you're at home. What's the match that you're looking forward to? What's the show of the two that you're locked in on, and you're here for?
I'm fascinated by this main event of Wrestle Kingdom. I think for the first time in at least a couple of years, it's much less of a foregone conclusion of who's walking out of Wrestle Kingdom,
right,
the champion, the winner of the main event. I think in previous years, if you were reading the tea leaves, it told you the story on the way in, and that was cool. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. Or even back to 19, right? With everything going on with Kenny and AEW being announced in that year, and then of course, once you kind of put it all together, you knew Kenny probably wasn't leaving with that belt, and then 20, it was the story of Naito, and 21, it was pretty clear we were headed towards Ibushi land, right? So there's a lot of 4 or 5, 6 years now where there was very little chance of even a surprise winner of the main event. And I think that in our community, we'll call it the Western audience, as people like to call it, it feels like a foregone conclusion that people feel that Zack is going to win this match because of the trajectory, the unorthodox trajectory of Shota Umino. I don't see it that way. I waver between 60 and 40 for both of them, right? Yeah. Like, I'm right in the and it has been a long time since there was a main event like that, especially for those of us who are so involved and so attentive to the booking and the trends. And I've had to dig pretty deep into the trends to find all the reasons I can point to that say Shota Umino is going to win this match and Zack Sabre Jr. is not. But I think I've found enough to say I don't know.
Right.
And that is exciting. I'm into that. And the rest of the card, I don't even have to say it, right? The rest of the card is tremendous. And if you had Jay White, Okada, Tanahashi, Will Ospreay, Shingo, if you had any of those dudes on top on this card, people would be creaming their pants that this is going to be one of the best Wrestle Kingdoms that we've seen in a very long time from top to bottom. But main events drive business in Japan. We know that, right? That has long been the case. And, there's a reason that the hype is a little less this year. And it's because of that main event. But for those of us who are invested and will stay invested and are kind of watching this Wrestle Kingdom to tie it to a new generation, I think this is about as good of a Wrestle Kingdom as you could find. as they could book. And I'm super excited for the whole card, but I am fascinated by the outcome of the main event for the first time in years. And I am so excited for that. I love that, right? Like I love having the opportunity to watch a match and really even with, you know, incredible involvement in the product and knowing, you know, knowing all the ins and outs and still being like, what are they going to do here? Like, how are they going to book this? And I'm stoked. I'm into it. So that main event, I do think it will deliver in the ring too. Don't get me wrong. Like these guys are going to go, and Shota's on a great trajectory, and Zack is, for my money, the best active wrestler in the world. So I don't know. I'm excited to see it.
I don't disagree with the word that you said, and all the cards on the table. You kind of discussed this in the Discord a couple of days ago, how you were feeling about Shota Umino, and ever since he did that, I thought about it, and it was like, well, what would really happen if Shota won? Like, how would things, like, how cataclysmic would it be really 5 days later? We'd be talking about it, but it's not going to destroy New Japan if he's not ready for the title. And if he's getting the title, it's because they have a plan for him that's leading into the next year. You know, we're going to get into the new beginning, and there's nothing to say that Shota can't win the title and lose it almost immediately and be some type of title, some kind of journey towards next year's Wrestle Kingdom if they wanted to do that. There's literally nothing and no reason why they can't belt him. It's just a prevailing theory that he's not ready. But this business is born on a ton of people who weren't ready, and they got the strap, and then they readied themselves while in position. So that's the part of it that I think about.
And that's a really important point, Jeremy. So I'll give you another name of people who said isn't ready for the title. It's Kazuchika Okada. Yeah. When he came in, I mean, he did not win it at Wrestle Kingdom, but when he came out and challenged Tanahashi after his singles match with Yoshihashi coming back from Excursion, everyone just said, "You got to be kidding me!" Like that's the main event of New Beginning. You know, like there really was that. I mean, people were excited to see him, but they did not consider him a world title guy. The only person that did was Geto at first. And, you know, and Geto was the one that really mattered. I mean, I know there were other people in the office. Right. Geto doesn't just get to act unilaterally, but you don't understand what I mean. It's like a lot of people are just like, this is Okado from TNA is the world champion of, you know, what? And then, well, that turned out all right.
So there were the last time they would have argued that you hot-shotted the IWGP title would be Evil over Naito a few years ago. And that was actually so far back, like 3 years ago, feels like it was almost like 5 or 6 years ago. And they haven't really done a hot shot angle like that. And there's another part of me that thinks Zack Sabre Jr. has accomplished all that he needs to accomplish as the IWGP champion. Like, if you look at his title reign, he's had a number of compelling title defenses. No one is going to think that he's an illegitimate champion. No one will think that the run, even if it was only 2 months, was faltered in any way, shape, or form. Like, there's a part of me that thinks, like, you've already checked off all the boxes doing what you need to do with Zack Sabre Jr. So if he didn't have the title anymore, would that be the worst thing in the world?
I also think Zack has crossed the threshold of being impenetrable.
Right.
Yeah. Like, the dude can lose, and that's okay. Right. And like
he's bulletproof now. Yeah.
He's gotten to that point. He's established himself both in ring quality, promos, aura. I mean, you name it. And that's, I think, something to recognize, right? Because if they needed to make Zack Sabre Jr., they would have put him in here against Naito, and he'd get the win. Like that's how they booked the G1. They booked the G1 to basically put Zack in the main event of Wrestle Kingdom, and then they pivoted and changed course. And I don't know why that all happened. And, you know, I point to that too. And I think, like, if Zack's just going to win this, why wouldn't they just have him beat Naito at the Dome?
Right.
Yeah. The 60-40 is a fair number to put on this as far as my feelings, but my 60 is still on Zack, just because I feel like they're setting up the idea of Shota had, and I mentioned this before, that last one big loss. Even at Wrestle Kingdom, for instance, Okada had the one last loss where he left crying. He had already won the title, but he left crying when he lost to Tanahashi, and Tanahashi was standing there just saying, "You're good, kid, but you got a long way to go before you're the ace." And he needed that loss before he could fully ascend. And I feel like that could happen. The other thing that they could do with this is they have basically 6 more months of Shota Umino set up. And it's set up on January 5th with Claudio, because the obvious story for Shota is Moxley. He's got to overcome Moxley. And I wonder if some of the philosophy is he's got to kill his mentor before he can climb all the way up to the mountain. And he's got to crawl over Moxley to get to the title, and that could be the story, so to speak. And of course, Moxley and Umino makes all the sense in the world for Dominion, which is where their whole alliance even started, when he pulled them up as a young lion, that type of thing. But I'm just excited about this. It is 60-40. I'm still leaning towards Zack just a little bit, but you make some really important points on Shota. And I'll say this real quick, just personally. When I went to the G1 in Dallas, I was sitting there next to my girlfriend there in American Airlines Arena, and one of the first matches had Shota in it as a young lion, in the black trunks and the black tights. And I said this, I wish I had said it, I wish I had it on tape, but I turned to my girlfriend and said, that guy someday is going to main event the Tokyo Dome. I mean, I really believe it. And it happened a little bit quicker than I thought it would.
Validated.
But I'm just so happy for the guy. And I know that there have been, but I think Shota's a real talent. And I think he's going to end up being what they hope he is. I think he's going to be a top guy. And I think we're starting that journey here, whether he wins the title or not. I think we're starting the official build to him. He either walks out of the Tokyo Dome as a surprise champion, or he sets off on his hero's journey coming off after this, which might include a villain turn somewhere in there. I mean, this will take twists and turns, but I'm really happy for him. I thought he had it back then. I thought he had it, and just to see him in the main event of the Dome is pretty exciting. So.
Yeah, so this show, I want to go back to something Chris said a little bit earlier, and that is, the show is going to be underappreciated, and it's going to over-deliver. I am confident that this show is going to be a great card top to bottom. Everybody is motivated and enthusiastic, it seems to me, to put the best match they can go out there. And yeah, there isn't an Okada, there isn't an Ospreay, there isn't the Jay White, there isn't these guys that have been all up and down these cards for the last better part of a decade, but it's okay. This show's going to be good, and there's going to be new people on this card that people are going to come back for next year, and I feel very confident about that.
This is the first Tokyo Dome main event since, God, I got to go pretty far back, since 2010 without Tanahashi, Okada, or Naito.
Wild.
Wow. How about that?
Shinsuke versus Takayama.
Yeah.
And even before that, Tanahashi had the 09 and the 08. So that even
20 years
is an anomaly. Yeah.
20
So
years of this.
and even the Noah show had Naito.
It's true.
So
It's true.
I mean, sort of a wild time. Clearly a pivot point for New Japan, and Japanese pro wrestling as a whole. I did some research whether this is the youngest main event since the first Tanahashi Okada main event. So it is not even by any stretch of the imagination the youngest, Tokyo Dome main event of all time. That was Nakamura Tanahashi in 05 with an average age of less than 26. I mean, that was really a new era thing. Really giving the young guys a shot. And Zack is,
boy, do they have to.
Well, they were in a spot, right? And
they were in a
again,
spot.
Another one of those things that's pretty much worked out. Set a trajectory towards 2012, and then 2012, 2013, you got the Okada era, and then we're off to the races. And now, we're sort of back there. We're sort of back to needing it. And but I think that the trust in the product is still high. And the identity of New Japan is still high. And I think these guys do speak to the identity of New Japan. I mean, the other thing I point to when I say I think I lean towards Shota is that foreign born wrestlers don't usually win the main event at the Tokyo Dome. The last time that happened,
Very
it was
true.
Brock Lesnar in
They
06.
need a fourth for the Mount Rushmore, though.
This is why this is one of the reasons, Chris, that I'm really thinking if Zack wins this thing, they almost have to go with Tsuji. Like my thought is like they're not going to have two foreign guys win in the Dome. This is one of those things where it's like it's part of the feel good show. It's part of the feel good show too. This is like a validation of the most classic, the first trope of Japanese wrestling, which is the Japanese baby faces vanquishing foreign menaces. I mean, it's literally the first story ever told in Japanese wrestling, and it's still the thing that works. So I hear all these things like, well, we're going to have Zack Sabre Jr. and then David Finlay is going to win and he's going to establish himself as the big heel. And I was just like, that's an awful lot of non-Japanese people winning Tokyo Dome matches in a time when they don't usually do that. So it does put all of that in a lot of jeopardy. And then of course with the Finlay thing, you also have to wonder. And I don't know if we know what his contract status is, and they would be very smart to protect themselves against what happened last year.
Sure. Yeah. Do we want to talk about Finley?
We'll wait until we get to that match.
Okay. Yeah.
I
got a lot there too.
We haven't. I feel like we've got the meat of this main event. I feel good. I feel like it could go either way, and I'm happy with either one of these guys, frankly speaking. And so that's where I'm at.
Yeah. My only thing about it is that like Zack has had this trajectory. Even just last year, I mean, 20 singles wins in New Japan. He's the first guy to do that 2 years in a row since Goto did it in the early 2000s. I mean, like, it is, he's had this trajectory where he's put in position to win a lot of matches. Umino didn't even have 20 singles matches. The booking of Umino is fascinating because, and it clearly when he came out to challenge Zack, the boos and it's not that people were booing Umino, they were booing him in that spot. And so the reaction that he gets when he comes out will also be fascinating. So, the beginning and end of this match, I think are going to tell us a lot about where Shota Umino is at with the fan base in Japan. And I think the ticket sales are soft. I think we've probably all heard a little bit about that. And I don't know what that speaks to, but when it comes to foreign-born wrestlers wrestling in New Japan, Zack and Kenny Omega are the two that really rooted themselves in Japan, learned the language, became really a part of the culture. So if you really want to honor that, Zack is a guy who could plausibly win the main event, and we know nothing about Zack's contract situation.
Yeah.
They could have signed him to a 4 or 5 year deal like they had with Ospreay, and he lives there. I mean, I know he lives in Japan. And he was through the pandemic, and he's grown with that company, and he seems pleased and happy to be there. And he's also he doesn't run to social media, right? So we may never know. But there's a chance that he's a long-termer, and they know that, and they're just going to rocket strap the man. They got him the Tokyo Sports MVP. So that's pretty big.
That's a big deal. It doesn't happen with foreigners very often at all. Very rare for a foreigner. Yeah.
So they could ride this whole thing, pretty far if they really want to. Plus, Zack's an international wrestler. He's not an American either. Which I think is an interesting point. So we'll see. It's big. It's a big match, and it's starting to get that big match feel, especially after that Korakuen. So
he did a lot of heavy lifting in the last month for Shota Umino. Huge,
and Zack
he did a lot of work himself. Like he
looks good.
Role. Yeah,
he looks good.
They curated a fast track program to get him queued up for the Tokyo Dome main event. We'll see if it worked. I don't think people who are watching day to day feel as compelled as the people who've been able to catch a lot of the programming for Shota Umino, because I think that they have put that effort into overdrive.
Absolutely.
And Venkin has a question here. Does anyone know if Nakamura's Noah match happened already? I think it has. It wasn't
did.
that
It was on
in?
the first.
Yeah, it was on the first. Yeah, that was their
That
New Year's.
was a show I heard you should all check out. There's a couple of interesting things happening there, but we're a New Japan show. We're on timetable, and we're going to get back to that real quick. But while we're talking about other stuff, if you are watching this show, please give the Chris Samsa a follow on Twitter. Please give a like to this show, a comment in the chat, retweet the show as it's airing on wherever it goes. All these things for the awareness, for the outreach, for the work that we do here. We very much appreciate it here at Fight Game Media. Gentlemen, we should just go in reverse order of the Wrestle Dynasty card or Wrestle Kingdom card and just get to Naito and Hiromu. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree.
Once in a lifetime match. In a lot of ways, Tetsuya Naito and Hiromu Takahashi is a match a lot of people wanted to see. A very popular match in Japan as well. And to me, it could be the match that is driving a lot of interest in getting people to the Tokyo Dome. What say you two?
I'm admittedly unexcited for this match. I think they missed the peak. They missed their moment. I mean, we know they missed their moment. I think they missed their moment by
years?
Almost 5 years.
I think they would have missed their moment in 2020 because when it was booked for anniversary, it felt like it was too late. But at least Hiromu hadn't become a shell of himself and a meme by then. I think Hiromu has become opponent dependent. And Naito, I mean, we've all seen.
We know what Naito
is, and they're great and they're charismatic, and people are excited to see them. Like, don't get me wrong, I get it. I think I think this match is slotted about 2 matches too high on the card, and I think the draw of this match seems to be overblown based on the ticket sales trends.
Sorry, Chris, go ahead. You can finish.
No, that's all. I don't need the heat, so I'm not gonna say much more than that. I think both of these wrestlers are great. I think they missed the mark on and I think if they thought this match was still a huge draw or a good drawing match, it would be main eventing Ryogoku or Ota City or one of the big non-Tokyo Dome venues in Japan instead of on the semi-main of Wrestle Kingdom.
Chris, there's nothing wrong with saying this would have been better for you if they had done it a different way at a different time.
Sure. Yeah. But
that's true.
People who love Tetsuya Naito and Hiromu Takahashi have what I like to call feelings in italics. The feelings are in italics. They have feelings, and I have fought off that heat before, and I have fought off that heat earlier today in a different Discord.
Not today.
That is all I've got to say, but I cannot lie. I'm not.
You're not feeling it. If you're not feeling it,
into it. And I hated how they got there. I didn't need the tag league stuff. I didn't need it. Just book the damn match. It'd be special singles match. We're doing it at the Tokyo Dome. It's gonna be awesome. Announce it when Naito loses the title. Like, I don't need it. I don't the World Tag League. Oh, we won World Tag League, but we don't want we don't want to be a tag team. We want to fight each other. Like, I don't know. It's a really weird way to get there.
Match. You could have booked the match and then still be on World Tag League together. And then the entire time you're thinking, are one of them going to turn on?
You've got 20 nights of can they coexist?
Yeah, and it was bad booking. Let's just call it that. It was bad booking because they announced that the Young Bucks were going to challenge for the titles before, at the Dome or at Wrestle Dynasty, and then we're sitting here at World Tag League going, well, what's the winner of World Tag League going to get? And it was awkward. It was poorly done, and then it kind of led everyone to realize that it's because LIJ is going to win, then make the match them, and that's how it kind of telegraphed that pretty heavily. And bottom line is this: Tetsuya Naito's body is broken down. His knees are shot. His neck is shot. He's tired. He's hurt. It's I think they're doing this because they realize they don't have a lot more chances for Naito to do much of anything. And there's not a whole lot left of him physically. He's still charismatic. He can still talk, but there's not much left of Naito physically. Hiromu hasn't had anything. My thought on this one, Chris, I know you mentioned opponent dependent. I feel like Hiromu's work jacks way up when he is actually interested in what he's doing. And I don't think there has been much of that in 2024. A little bit with the Desperado stuff he's into. I think he likes Despe and
the Hinari match.
Hinari, yep. But you see, look what happens when he is. But also look what happens when he isn't. And like the second half of this year until this Naito thing, he was just kind of floating through cards. And when he's not motivated, he shows it. and of course, T-shirt Naito is a thing. So, but T-shirt Naito is a necessity right now. He can't do what he used to do. I mean, he can barely stand on the middle rope to do a move. His knees won't hold him up there. So it's now or never. And I think the reason this match is happening is because these two have wanted to wrestle each other, and they said, well, we just got to get ourselves into a position to do so. And now it's like, no, I don't have another year, perhaps. It very well might be that to that point. Well, I'm not sure how much he can do.
Here's the thing. Naito still led New Japan in overall match length in 2024. He wrestled 29 hours of overall match length. Obviously, not all that singles matches, but he showed up a ton in 2024. And it's wild to me that dude is still on every bus and on every card. And clearly they needed it. And it worked. I mean, they grew attendance 24 over 23, which they shouldn't have without Okada, Ospreay, Jay White, Ibushi, like you name it. Like they're all gone. And Naito put that company on his back for an entire year in various ways. And that is incredible. But part of me wonders what the output would look like if he cut that in half. The output of his big matches could be even higher. And honestly, there are some matches that he delivered pretty well. In this past year, I sat essentially ringside with John Muse, watched Naito lose the title in Chicago, and that match was pretty good. A little bit of American smoke and mirrors with the Moxley, Moxley being involved and all that. But I mean, shout
out to John Muse.
Shout out John Muse, right? Always. But when I pulled the leaderboard numbers for all of the different kind of stuff that I look at, I was like, how in the world is Naito still that dude? And 3 of the last 5 years, he's been the person who spent the most time in a New Japan ring. Like, so no wonder the man is, I mean, he is gotta be feeling it.
Well, yeah, it is. And the thing is with the match time, especially this year, is like we had a lot of matches where he did only a handful of things. But boy, on those house shows, he still sells merch. He's the face of the company. So they roll him out there and they put him in a 6-man tag and it's like, do 5 things. Tetsuya, just do 5 things. And stand there. And he still does it. But
he's also got to spend all that time on the bus.
Yeah. Yeah,
like
no,
that,
it's not easy. I'm not trying to say he's taking it easy.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying his body is shot. You just see it in these big matches. He can't, satellite DDTs. He can't really do that move. He can't do the combinacion anymore. He can't get over the top rope anymore. Yeah. He doesn't even try any. He tried it a couple of times and embarrassed himself and stopped doing it. And he can't really do superplexes anymore. It's rough sometimes.
I hope
watching.
I'm convinced that this man gets some sort of energy boost from a big crowd, though.
Sure.
And I
hope he can pull something out.
And I do think Hiromu, he will give Hiromu everything he can give Hiromu. They are 2 peas in a pod. And I think that gives me some hope that, Naito can go. And Hiromu is a guy who can drive the bus, drive a match, right? He can get the best out of whoever he's working with if he wants to. And I'm sure he will want to here. And I think, I think this match again is it's going to be very story oriented instead of being your 5-star classic. So it's going to be like, how are these guys going to interact and how are these guys, what's the outcome going to be? Is this a turning point for LIJ? And I think that there's some intrigue there. I think there should be. Hiromu teases leaving, in the interviews, and Naito is very open that he literally cannot see, I mean, like, and professional wrestlers are professional liars. So who knows how true it all is, right? But because of the seriousness of that situation, everyone just kind of dives into believing it because it's fun. It's fun to believe. And I don't think we're getting totally worked, but we might be getting worked a little, and that's cool. I'm into it.
I do
we'll
believe
see.
that both of these guys are motivated to have a good match, and I think Hiromu's talented enough to will it into a good match for both, not an all-time classic or anything, but I do think that possibility is there. Let me ask you two this real quick before we move on to the next match. Is it possible that this is Tetsuya Naito's last Wrestle Kingdom match ever?
No.
No.
No? Okay.
Nope, because Tanahashi's going to retire next year. And then I think within 2 or 3 years of that, Naito gets his last one for.
I am amazed that you think that he is going to last 2 more years.
I think there's a world where the 1-5 show this year would have been Tanahashi's retirement show,
right?
And 1-4 next year would have been Naito's. I think that world exists, but I think that world
plans changed.
That world includes Kazuchika Okada on Tokyo Dome cards.
Right. And that's not happening anytime soon.
No, not this year at least.
Nope, not anytime soon. All right, let's get to the next traditional match that we got going on, and that is Yota Tsuji challenging David Finlay for the global title. Now, this match doesn't seem like it was the match it was always supposed to be. There was a lot of talk about Yuya Uemura, but he ended up getting injured. But this has been a year where Yota Tsuji has seen a lot of success, winning the New Japan Cup and being the runner-up to the G1, and presumably beating David Finlay at least one time, and if things had gone according to plan, maybe twice at the New Japan Cup. Do you think that he has a potential match where he wins against David Finlay at the big one at the Tokyo Dome for the global title, people? What do you think?
Well, the scoops are in. Finlay's contract's up in January. Shocking, I know. A foreign wrestler
are they?
with a contract that's up in January. Yeah. I've never heard of this happening in New Japan Pro Wrestling. It's unprecedented. How could David Finlay possibly be a winner of this match? My tongue is all the way in the cheek here. I think Finlay is going to be the IWGP World Heavyweight Champion before the G1 next year.
I think so too.
Maybe during the G1 next year, he may hold that title. So I think that means he's got to get the white belt off of his shoulder, so he can prep for the New Japan Cup, and probably hope. I think that's the trajectory for Finlay.
I completely agree with you, Chris. I think he's the guy that comes out of this. He's going to step up to whoever comes out of the January 4th with that belt, and I think he's ready, and I think that he's established that global title. I think that global title means something, so I think that's mission accomplished for him, and he's ready to move up to that world title challenger and champion status. It's an interesting thing to throw out there about his contract, just because it does mean, that everybody is saying that, it's a zig and a zag, right? You put that out there and then he wins. I'm like, oh no, what are we going to do? But the story could absolutely be, Finlay could just talk openly that, say he signed, right? And we're going to go in that trajectory. And what happened is he's going to sign with the company. He's going to be the champion this year, just like you said, Chris. It's a great story to tell. It's like, I don't know. I just lost my belt. Maybe I'm done here. Like that whole thing. And then he's not. There's all kinds of zig and zags you can do with that news coming out that his contract's up. But to me, this is a great chance to launch Finlay into world title contention, just like you said. The other thing it can do is get us used to Yota Tsuji wearing a major belt for a while too. And because eventually the goal is to get Tsuji to that spot. And you don't have to do that right now, but if he has 4, 5, 6 month run Well, it doesn't have to be terribly long with that global title where he's just walking out there for preview tags and having a couple of title matches with that global belt. It's easy to get used to the idea of Yota Tsuji in that type of spot. And then the goal is to have him in main event level. And this is another step, I think, for him. There's more to do with Tsuji as a global champion than Finlay, because I think Finlay's just done what he needs to do with it. And they are going to need a challenger after this. So, I mean, I know that the Rambo is going to make a challenger for New Beginning or whatever, but that could be a one and done thing. And Taichi makes a lot of sense for that if it's going to be Zack and all that stuff. But there are a bunch of people that it could be. But yeah, to me, this is the one also, like we mentioned, I know that we're in unprecedented times and we're building new people and all that, but New Japan can still be kind of conservative sometimes, and both foreigners walking with the titles, that just doesn't sound like New Japan to me too much. And I know that things change, but that would be a big step, right?
But who is David Finlay beating for the World Heavyweight Championship? Zack?
Yeah.
At Ryogoku? Like, are they doing that? That doesn't make sense either.
No.
It all goes back to the main event, my friend.
Yeah, I mean, he could be the guy that cuts off Shota, and
I like it, guys. I like what you're talking here. But we got to keep moving, so we're going to go on to the next match. We got Doki versus El Desperado. I'm going to tell you guys, this might be the match I'm personally looking most forward to as a traditional New Japan match on the card. Both of these guys, I feel like, cannot miss in the ring right now, and the charisma of El Desperado as a challenger and the legitimacy of Doki right now is just a combination that I'm here for. Chris, what do you think about this match?
Sleeper for match of the night, for sure.
Yeah.
Love Doki, love El Desperado. Their history together is deep. And Doki's never done anything in the Tokyo Dome that's not a Rambo. So, and he is, his trajectory has been great. I mean, this reign has been good. His win was stunning over the summer. And then honestly, every win since has been stunning. So
he has the best finish in the business right now, in my opinion.
Yeah, sure.
De La Luna. You love the De La Luna, yeah.
I love it. I love it.
I mean, Despy's got some finish too. Pinche Loco. And yeah, I mean, these guys, the junior division of New Japan is like no other and has been like no other forever. People think of juniors or they think of light heavyweights as flippies, and it's just not that, right? It's not even always all that fast. It is the purest form of the art of pro wrestling is the junior division of New Japan. And I say that when we talk about the singles match, and then we'll talk about a ladder match.
Thinking about Joe as the champion of the junior heavyweight division for part of the year.
Yeah.
Well, notwithstanding.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I mean, you need someone that you want to see lose. You got to have a bad guy. And this match does not have a bad guy. And that's also fine with me. I don't know. I wonder if Despy works heel. Or if they just play it straight and it's just a great match, right? It's just honorable. But yeah, I don't think this is the match that people will be talking about at the end of 1-4, but I think this is the match people will be talking about when they look back on the show in, the middle of the year.
Right.
Yeah, and it really doesn't matter to me who wins this thing, and I'm into it. But both of them could be champion coming out of this, and I'm happy. They're just both established. Both of them are on fire, like you said. So I'm just looking forward to a great match. And if they want to course correct and put Desperado back in the title, back on the title, because I don't think they really wanted to take it off him, but he had to have surgery. But if they leave it on Doki, it's fine. Oh, this is just going to be a terrific match between two guys that are going to want to show off. So I'm looking forward to this one. But it'll be good either way. No complaints.
I agree. And what also could be a sleeper, but it also has unbelievable expectations for some people to live up to. We have Shingo Takagi as the never openweight champion versus AEW's Konosuke Takeshita, who's the AEW International Champion, in a winner-take-all title-for-title match. I am here for this match. I am excited for this match, and I think Takeshita is going to win this match.
Well, doesn't everybody? Chris, this is the only real question about this match. Chris, is there any chance Shingo Takagi wins?
It wouldn't make any sense.
I know.
So
you really want to see Shingo and Ishii on the next day?
I mean, there's no.
That would be
That's
great, but
fine.
then we don't get Takeshita. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it doesn't really make any sense. And it just when you look at the 1-5 booking, it doesn't make any sense. When you look at the trajectory of Takeshita, when you look at how he got here, I mean, this match is probably the most foregone conclusion on the card, but that doesn't mean it's not going to be awesome. Awesome.
Yeah,
should be tremendous stuff. And as should the next night. I'm sure we'll talk about that. But yeah, my assumption is that Takeshita wins in a great match. One that, speaks to how, the lore of the never open weight title, right? And then because I do have a theory with no inside information that Takeshita is doing what everyone in Japan does when they want to leave their first company is they go somewhere else completely. They go freelance, or they go to America, or they go to, Michinoku Pro or something like totally outrageous and wild. That is a non-threat to the company that they started with. And then they very softly and slowly land themselves in the bigger company. So Takeshita moves to
your lips to God's ears. Your lips to God's ears.
Moves to America, right? Via Kenny Omega, via AEW, and does his American loop, right? And gets over in America and makes himself a really big star. And the Japanese pro wrestling company that focuses the most on America and can probably pay the most domestically, even if that doesn't compare to an American paycheck. When Takeshita comes back to Japan, I have a strange feeling he's not, at least not exclusively, going to be working with DDT. So I know nothing. I truly know nothing, but all the signs are there. And if New Japan wants that, and they should, and it's probably pretty clear that they do, then you put him in this spot, which is the third biggest singles title on their show at the Tokyo Dome, and you put the belt on him, and you get even just 3 or 4 dates, and he is
eat him up, legitimize him for a main event,
legitimize him, let him go away again for a little while. Maybe he doesn't do this year's G1 or whatever, but who knows how long that AEW deal is, and then calm it all down, have him lose the title to someone cool, and then he pops back up when he's ready to come back for real.
I don't want to give it. Oh, go ahead.
By the way, the other thing about this, reestablishing the never open weight title as the true BMF title,
sure,
in New Japan is just so satisfying to me, because my favorite era with that was the Ishii, Goto, Makabe, just beat the hell out of each other type Suzuki, and that they have gone back to that again, and Shingo made it happen and legitimized it again, and then other people were involved in that too. But it's very satisfying for me. It's what I think that belt's true identity is, especially with a global title taking the spot that the Intercontinental title should have had all along. It shouldn't have been combined. That was a mistake, but we have a global title for that to be that that stepping stone type of thing. But this could just be the badass title. I like it, and it's going to show up on both nights in that direction, with Ishii challenging the winner. So yeah, all the signs are there, right? I mean, he said publicly that he wanted to be a New Japan wrestler his whole career. Like that's when he came up. He wanted to grow up to be a New Japan wrestler, and then New Japan has booked him well and to have a successful G1. Now they're probably going to be putting the never open weight title on this. I mean, they couldn't be flirting with each other anymore than they already are. So it just feels like it's on the way. And considering the G1 run he had, he might be the shot in the arm that New Japan really could use.
Pun intended, he literally angled his way into a gig at New Japan. All right, we're working on this lumberjack match. between Hiroshi Tanahashi and House of Torture's Evil. The stipulation to this match, gentlemen, that if Hiroshi Tanahashi loses, then he is going to retire from active professional wrestling. I feel like, personally, they overtipped their hand with the amount of work that they've done to put the stakes of danger for Tanahashi. They could have done one. They could have done multiple things. They made it a lumberjack match. They cut off Tanahashi's hair. They've added the retirement stipulation. Evil does not have to retire if he loses. It is strictly Tanahashi. Did they overdo it, or was it the outcome never felt in doubt?
I'm curious if at the press conference in, I don't know, however many hours, 10, yeah, give or take.
Ish.
I'm curious if this becomes a hair versus career match, and we're gonna see Evil get his head shaved. Because like otherwise, why cut the hair, and why
introduce anything about
another stip, right? So Evil's got to put something on the line, and why not his hair? I think that'd be tremendous.
Yeah, and they did. I mentioned this. They did a thing where they kind of menaced each other with scissors months ago. I mean, that they put this out into the zeitgeist a while back that this could be a hair type of thing. It would make a lot of sense to do the hair versus career. I know a lot of people think that's tilted pretty heavily in one direction. Let's face it, it is. Except shaving your head in Japan is kind of a big deal, a much bigger deal than it is in the United States.
The last time someone shaved their head in New Japan ring was after a great never openweight title match.
Yeah, it was Suzuki.
Tremendous in the Tokyo Dome.
Yeah, shaved his own hair.
Yes,
very Suzuki-like.
Yes, of course he did.
Of course. But yeah, so I'm curious to see this one. The other thing about this one is they've tilted it so heavy. If it's not hair versus career, it's so heavily tilted that I wonder if Tanahashi isn't going to lose. And here's my prediction: he could lose his career-ending match, and it will not be the end of his career. There's no way. No matter what, this is not the end of Tanahashi's career. Like that. And in fact, I'm going to say this right here in this show right now: when Tanahashi has the match that he says this is the last match of my career, it won't be. Tanahashi will think it is
at next year's Wrestle Kingdom.
Yeah, he's going to come back. He's going to come back.
I think he will be present. I don't know that he will. Muto's not back yet. Muto's not back yet. Come back.
He will.
I mean, if anyone's ever going to come back, it's Keiji Muto.
Yeah. We are bearing the lead just a little bit. This is not going to be a match of the year, a work rate match. This is going to be pure story. This is going to be all the
way more in Tsuji. Vankin's right,
all the good versus evil. This is going to be all the mid card Tokyo Dome stuff.
It's going to be the best type of shenanigans.
Absolutely,
it's going to be fun. It's going to be that match you don't really have to pay that close attention to, but they're going something.
Take a breather. You get the finish. And you're like, oh, that was good.
They're gonna have something up their sleeve though, where somebody shows up to save the day.
You think it's the dads? We're gonna get like Nagata and those guys.
I would imagine that they're the lumberjacks.
The lumberjacks, right?
Shimon, Yoshihashi, and Hiroki Goto.
But like, I do feel like somebody at some point is going to walk down that ramp that's going to be like, holy shit. And it could be Keiji Muto.
It could be Omega.
It could be Shinsuke Nakamura. I mean,
he's in town.
Could be.
He's in town, but he's sort of a weirdo. He's got to stay in WWE character now. So I don't think maybe that wouldn't work out, but, or it's going to be whoever.
That'd be a pop and a half.
Yeah, I mean it would be a tell towards hopefully Tanahashi's last match, because that would be something. But yeah, it will be fun. It's going to be fun shenanigans, and I'm not a House of Torture hater. But I'm not like a House of Torture believer. But I think that they exist, and this is the exact right spot on the card for House of Torture.
Vankin mentions that Uemura did lose his hair to Tsuji. It wasn't in the dome though, but it was.
That's true. That did happen.
In the 1-1-2 punch of this match, we have the TV title match in which Jeff Cobb, Ryohei Oiwa, and a returning El Phantasmo are all challenging Ren Narita for the New Japan Television title. Now, to me, this feels like a Ren Narita win in order to raise the stakes of Evil possibly winning the next match and kind of giving that House of Torture momentum to kind of scare people into the possibility that Tanahashi might lose. But I do think we're going to get one hell of a match between these four guys on the way there.
This feels like a Heyman special.
Yeah, a little bit, doesn't it?
It could, yeah, they could connect the two. Or I guess somehow, some way, El Phantasmo is the guy that saves Tanahashi, and that sets up their situation as they're going forward, which we know was the plan for Tag League. So I do wonder if that comes into play here.
That's a really I think there's a tip off here that these two matches are back to back, and it's two key faction matches in a row. Like they usually will connect those dots. If they're like, I know that like Shingo is wrestling just before Naito and Hiromu, but that's not an LIJ story with he and Takeshita necessarily. It's a little bit different. I mean, this feels like it could be chapter 1 and chapter 2. Yeah.
All right. Now we have the women from Stardom with the IWGP Women's Championship match. We got Mayu Iwatani versus Azumi. Now, admittedly, I'm not the Stardom expert here, but I know both of these women are exceptionally talented, and if they get 10 minutes, they're going to have a hell of a match.
Well, we have a situation similar to the Finlay one here with Mayu Iwatani because what is her contract situation? That's what's really putting this in jeopardy. One, Azmi's wonderfully talented. She has been put in front of American audiences this past year. She's done some stuff with AEW and Ring of Honor, which I don't think is a coincidence that they're showing her around a little bit. Remember, they did that with Zack wrestled for everybody before he won the world title. So Azmi's been seen in the United States. Mayu Iwatani we don't know, might be headed over to Marigold to be reunited with Rossy Ogawa at some point. I know I talked to Scott Edwards about this, and 1 year ago, he said it was 100% Mayu. As soon as her contract is up, she's leaving. He's lowered that to about 80% now. This past year's gone pretty well for Mayu. But there's a relationship between Rossi and Mayu that goes beyond just promoter. And I don't mean anything inappropriate. Although there's, Kenny Omega ran his mouth about that. And but the point I'm making on that is Mayu Iwatani's first show was the first Stardom show. Those two things happened on the same day. Her first match, Stardom's first show. She has Rossi's been like a father figure to her in a lot of ways. And then when he left, all indications were that she was crossing days off on the calendar until she could leave and go. But she had signed a 2-year deal instead of a 1-year deal because she did the movie, and they wanted to make sure she was there to promote the movie. With all that said, this feels like it might be time to put that belt on somebody else, and somebody that they have been showing off to American audiences a little bit in Azmi, who can absolutely carry that and is talented enough to do so. If they keep Mayu Iwatani and they feel like they're going to keep Mayu Iwatani, then they can just keep it on her because she's the best women's wrestler in the world. So right now, I think there are more things going on backstage that determine who wins this than on stage. Both of them are supremely talented. It's going to be a great match. I hope they give them time and to show us, but that's kind of the situation there. It has a lot more to do with Mayu's contract than necessarily whether it's time to switch the belts, just whether they feel like they have to or not.
I now have the same access to stats and info with Stardom as I do with New Japan. So what I can say about all this is that Mayu Iwatani by far has the most matches, wins, singles matches, you name it, like pretty much every record, every positive record, and some of the others, some of the losses records with Stardom. She holds everything. She also went 14-2 this last year in singles matches, and one of those losses was to Azumi. So I don't consume a lot of the Stardom product unless someone recommends something to me, but the numbers tell me that Stardom is still very invested in Mayu Iwatani. So
they want her. They want to keep her. No question about that.
Sure. So, if she is someone who thrives off of victory, they have given her many victories. So they're clearly trying. So we'll see, we'll see where that lands. And all I know are the numbers. And to me, that says she's someone that they like and they want to keep. But the fact that her most recent loss was to Azumi tells me that maybe Mayu believes that that's the person to put over on the way out. So there, you could play either side of that.
Yeah, and I think the chat is agreeing with what we're saying. For the love of God, just give them time. Just don't do what we. And the key is when we had the match last time when it was Kyrie and all that. Unfortunately, that match was nothing but a delivery system for Mercedes Moné. That was just there so that Mercedes Moné could come out, and her part of it, her entrance and her promo, was longer than the match itself. Just let us have a match here. Just let us have a match here. It's literally all we're asking. You can
give them time and give them a clean ring canvas, because what's happening.
Oh
beforehand.
yeah, that's right. Oh shit. Yeah.
Speaking of what's happening beforehand, the IWGP Junior Tag Team Champion 4-way Tokyo Terror ladder match. We have challengers Bullet Club, Court Connor, and Drilla Maloney. We have challengers Catch 22, TJP, and Francisco Akira. We have challengers Robbie Eagles and Kosei Fujita from TMDK, all challenging the Jet Setters, the IWGP Junior Tag Team Champions, Kushida and Kevin Knight. Gentlemen, this match is going to be insane. And it could be 90% sure it's going to be good. There's a 10% chance it could be an unholy mess. But I'm here for it either way, we'll say.
There's a 12.5% chance. A 12.5% chance one of these guys gets killed too. I mean, this is going to be. I'm just praying for safety at this point. when they started throwing in the.
Let them do. Let them do as they're going to do. That's not on me. It's not my body.
Well, it could be mine, Chris. Here's why I'm saying this. I'm sitting somewhere in rows 3 through 6, and I might end up with a wrestler to take home with me, and I don't know Kevin Knight might land in my lap.
You can show on TV that contains the sweat of one of these wrestlers.
It's going to be nuts. I mean, this is going to be a spot fest, and they're going to do everything dangerous because of the situation. So it'll be exciting to watch, and it's a bit reminiscent. Chris, you probably remember these when they would do these 4-way matches with the Bucks and Red Dragon and the Time Splitters. That was when it was showing in Kushida and stuff like that. And those were always a great way to kick off the show and just get everybody's adrenaline running and all this stuff. My prediction based off of just nothing, but I think TMDK. I think Robbie and Fujita are winning this one, but it could go any direction right there. I mean, we have a feeling. I'm just trying to enjoy Kevin Knight while we have him, because I think the North American companies are starting to figure out that he's a 5-tool player, and that he does everything well. And I think he's going to get if not this year, very soon, probably a fairly big offer from somebody. But so I'm just happy we have Kevin Knight, and hope everyone comes out of it without any major injuries anyway. But it'll be exciting.
I don't think this match needed to be a ladder match.
No.
I was excited for this match before they added the Tokyo Terror tables, ladders, and desks. But
that's the best moment. I'm sorry, just step on that. Remember that for a while, and there was this one wonderfully awkward moment where Kushida just blanked on the English word for tables and just could not
so
do it.
Funny. And Dave said it on Wrestling Observer Radio then too. He's like, it's going to be a tables, ladders, and desks match. And said it just as straight as you can say it. And whereas the rest of us were like, it's definitely a TLC match essentially.
That's all right.
But it was very funny. But I mean, after the Junior Tag League Finals, which was just the longest sprint I've ever watched. We know that this division of junior tag teams is incredibly stacked. I mean, and these 4 teams specifically are the ones that kind of outshine the rest of them. So, I mean, I do hope for relative safety, but I hope someone does something sort of totally outrageous. and I don't know who that will be. But I have a strange feeling that, you know, we've seen some of these guys in some outrageous matches, or the people that they are attached to, be it the cage match in Osaka, or this is a group of dudes that are they're gonna do some stuff. So, and it's gonna set a different tone, I think, for this generation of opening matches on Wrestle Kingdom in the Tokyo Dome. So I honestly have no clue who's going to win, and I sort of don't care. But I want to see Fujita get a run, and anytime Robbie Eagles is in the ring, I'm a happy guy. So I would love to see them get some shine here.
All right. We have a kickoff for the show. It is the New Japan Rambo.
I'm
not sure, but
no one knows
with it.
This is what happens when somebody tried to pronounce Rumble 10 years ago and failed miserably, and we still don't exactly know what this match is called.
Different website, different media, all New Japan pronouncing it differently on each one.
Let me tell you,
both are apparently
Twitter
correct,
gets very mad. And they have big opinions about N's and M's.
I don't have enough time in my day to make that the hill I die on.
I'll tell you what. I'll tell you what too. Here's why that argument is even extra stupid, because the M and N can sometimes be interchangeable with the same hiragana character in Japan.
Right.
Like I saw that while I was rolling around in the subways or the metro, the trains, and all that stuff. Like sometimes it's an M and sometimes it's an N. People, relax.
And that is why there is no answer. But every year I'm going to ask, and it's gonna become a running bit.
So the Rambo has a little bit of elevated stakes from the last week of programming for New Japan. The King of Pro Wrestling provisional title has been retired, and Great-O-Khan proposed that the winner of this Rambo would get an IWGP heavyweight championship title shot. I don't believe that's been fully confirmed, but with Great-O-Khan, Taichi, Yoshihashi, Hiroki Goto, Ishii, among others, not booked for this card, there is a potential for some names to actually be in this Rambo beyond names that you might have been dismissive of in the past. Do you guys have any thoughts about what this Rambo is going to be like?
I'm glad they're making it mean something a little bit there, and I do think it means we're going to be getting all the people that just aren't. And this is a hard card to get on, so I think this is how they're going to. There's a delivery system for getting every. Bolton Oleg will be in there. You know, we might see. The Young Lions might get a little bit of a thing here or so. They won't last long, that type of thing. But I'm glad it's a little bit different than the comedy figure and bringing back the 80-year-old, guys, and sometimes literally, like these types of things. We got
the cheeseburger spot,
just the cheeseburger spot and things like that.
Hey, cheeseburger was over.
He was.
He did. Yeah, he got over. Yeah, but like we got great kabuki sometimes, that type of stuff. But this will be a little bit different than that. So we'll see those guys. It'll probably be interesting, and it might tell us a little bit about what they have in mind for the main event. But you can't really depend on that. But say if Taichi wins, then that is intriguing, because you got the Suzuki-gun tie-ins with Zack, and then that whole thing, and or if it's somebody that is friends with Shota. That could throw something in there where it's like it's one of Shota's allies, and if he wins, now he's got to meet him. And so that it's a way of setting something up for New Beginning that's interesting right off the bat.
There's a part of me that really hopes Taichi wins this, and everyone starts talking, and everyone's like, "Oh, Zack and Taichi, it's gonna be awesome." And
I know where you're going.
Like the nuclear heat from that group of people that would immediately be bestowed upon Shota Umino. Yeah, like when
Shota's father hits the mat for the third time.
Sure. If they want to make a heel out of Shota Umino, Taichi's winning this damn Rambo.
My goodness.
Because I would, and I'd like it either way. Don't get me wrong. I would also like Taichi versus Zack in Osaka, but I'm rooting for chaos. I always, well, not the faction, but the the concept of chaos. And there's a
watching the world burn sometimes.
There's a big part of me that says, hell yeah, let's get Taichi the victory here. And also I think he's right in that lane where he could be that perfect challenger for that time frame. Yeah. And then let's put the big belt on Shota and have everyone long for Zack and Taichi the same way they longed for Naito and Hiromu.
No, Venkin just says, "Can we not do this? Does that faction still exist?" Oh, chaos. You mean? I'm imagining. Barely. Allegedly, Bishamon's it.
Yoshiashi's still there.
Yeah. Bishamon's about the all that's left of chaos now.
Dustin Moyen asked a question for Cliff. Do you think whoever wins the Rambo will spoil who wins the main event? You answered that.
I worry about that. I do.
There's a trolling effort that could be in play for that.
But we do know that New Japan, modern New Japan, enjoys heat. But that would be a tell for what they want to do with Shota. And I think they still have their sights set on big time babyface Shota Umino.
Does the fact that they have not announced who's in this going into the Dome tells me there are going to be some surprises. So what I'm hoping for is, otherwise they just tell you who's going to be in it, right? They wouldn't necessarily tell us the number of your number going in, but I think they have some surprises in mind. So I'm hoping we see a little Minoru Suzuki somewhere in here. That's what I'm hoping.
Sure.
Not that he wins it, but I'm hoping to hear the music. You got to do the music in the Dome. Come on.
He could win and challenge Zack.
Yeah,
that's fun.
That's a story.
That's an end of January main event.
That's a fun new beginning main event. Yeah.
Yeah, or you could still do it. Shota wins, and now he's beaten Zack. Now he's got to get the final boss.
And we don't know that this is a new beginning challenge either.
No, that's true. That's true.
It could they could hotshot something for Dash. And we could get 3 IWGP challenges in 3 days.
They could treat it like an AEW casino gauntlet and have a open contract that they just tease for months without rewarding that everyone needs.
Everyone needs a clipboard and a briefcase. Every company needs a clipboard.
Heat-inducing clipboards. All right. I believe that has concluded the Kingdom portion of our preview. I don't think it'll take quite as long to get through Dynasty. I especially don't think it'll take too long to talk about the majority of the lower card matches here. So we're going to roll right with that and then spend some time at the very end talking about the big matches. Okay. So at the beginning, the pre-show match opening the show is going to be Persephone from CMLL, Momo Watanabe from Stardom, Willow Nightingale from AEW, and Ring of Honor Women's Champion Athena from Ring of Honor competing in a 4-way match to win a title shot of their choice at the promotion of their choice. In my mind, I think Athena should be challenging someone in AEW, but honestly, I'm fine with any one of these women challenging anywhere. Do you have any outside the box thoughts about who that could be and who they challenge?
It's such a strange match, truthfully, that I don't even know where to start.
It's tricky, isn't it? Because the hard part is we don't know what show they're using this match to set up. Is it a Stardom show? Are they trying to set something up for Yokohama, where they, because they're doing Yokohama Budokan again, and that's a big building, and they're probably going to want Mercedes for it if they can get her. And so then do you do Momo Watanabe and her, but she just challenged for the IWGP title? We don't know what they're trying to set up. So without that information, it's just a wild card to me.
Should be a fun match. I think the talent in this should be on the main card and not the kickoff. Basically, it should be higher up on the card. I get why it's not, but
it's odd that it's on the quote-unquote pre-show, though.
Right.
It does feel like a main card
thing. Should be, it should be where it seems like Mina and Mercedes is, which is booked like on the website. It's the second card from the bottom, and I'm still not sure I agree with that, according to the way that they have it listed, even though
there is no match order for this show yet.
At all?
No. Yeah.
Because and it's kayfabe because they don't. Well, we don't know who the
we don't know who the
IWGP
titles.
going to be.
Yeah.
We don't know.
I figured the titles that weren't in flux were kind of locked into the card, and then the ones that were this guy could win or this guy could win are going to get flipped back and forth. Is
so far
I felt like that was going to be.
And that could very well be, Jeremy. Right now, the only matches that they have listed as first and second are these pre-show matches.
Yep.
But you might be right. You might be exactly right, but they just can't say anything right yet.
All I know for sure, and all I've been told for sure, is that the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship match will be the main event.
Yeah.
Of the show? Great.
But that feels obvious, but that has and that was the question that I asked to get that information. So my bet would be Kid and Omega's the semi-main, the IWGP Heavyweight is the main, and before that, you swap out the not IWGP title match or the global match, and the not.
Why would you put the global match on whoever's the global match, and then the two, like if it was Yota and Jack Perry, it would be like fifth, and then Shota and Claudio, if that was the match. For no title, that would be sixth. Then you put the title matches on the back end.
Right. Those land sort of closer to the middle of the card, whereas the two title matches move up. Yeah. I think that's generally the assumption, but I do think Kid and Kenny is going to end up the semi-main.
And that's the same pattern. That's the same pattern. That's the same pattern as Kingdom, where you have the global title match, then you have the very special singles match, and then you have the IWGP title.
Yeah.
In the next match that I am incredibly excited for, almost irrationally excited, given its placement on the card.
You're rational,
Dustin
right?
Rhodes and Sammy Guevara versus Yoshinobu Kanemaru and Sho. I get it, guys. I get that it's irrational that I'm into this match. But I think it's going to be so much fun watching Kanemaru and Dustin Rhodes going at it with each other.
Yes,
and I think Sho and Sammy Guevara is going to be underrated with each other. Sammy's going to be motivated in Japan. Dustin Rhodes is just living his best life right now, getting paid to show up and do whatever and be these champions. Kanemaru and Sho are pros. I know that they don't get their flowers and they have their spot in House of Torture, but they're in House of Torture and they're heels, and they're going to be the perfect heels in this match to challenge and lose the Ring of Honor title shot. I'm totally here for it. Do you have
I don't even think they know who they're fighting. Based on the promo they sent in, they were like, we want those titles. Yeah. They weren't like Dustin and Sammy. We want those titles. And yes, I think I think on the left side of this graphic here, you've got a couple of guys who are checking something off a bucket list, which I think is great and part of the point of this whole show. I think this show would be significantly higher star power from the AEW side if that bucket list hadn't already been checked off by a ton of people that work at AEW over the last couple of years. But either way, this is what we've got, and it'll be a match. And
perfect pre-show match.
It is a perfect pre-show match, which is just where the ROH Tag Championships live.
Thank you.
And I'm really happy I'm seeing Dustin here. I like Dustin Rhodes a lot. I have a lot of respect for him. So I'm excited about him getting this moment here.
Texas. All right. We have an 8-man Lucha Gauntlet match, 4 New Japan wrestlers, 4 CML wrestlers. This could be a lot of people, but who it won't be it won't be Templario. It won't be Volador. It won't be Mystico. There are a number of these people that are booked for CMLL for that weekend. It could be Soberano. We could see Hechicero in there. But beyond that, I really don't have a whole lot of guesses as to who this could be from the CMLL side.
And again, this one, does this have any stakes? Do you win anything if you win this thing?
No. It's the
right,
requisite CMLL participation.
I think it might set something up for Fantastica Mania.
That'd be fun.
Maybe.
So,
Zandikin is also booked at CMLL.
Which that was the one that broke my heart because I missed that dude.
He was really good.
He was a lot of fun.
Yeah, this is pretty meaningless to me, and I think CMLL or someone forgot to let CMLL know that they needed 4 guys. But someone cool might show. I mean, Titan, right? He could rep CMLL and then tag
Most likely will.
Bushi. I mean, you figure he's got to be. He's got to be.
Do you think we get Desperado and Hiromu in this match, or Doki, or any of those guys?
It's got to be people who you assume are going to be on that Fantastic Mania tour.
Right.
Because you got to figure that they've got to build some sort of interaction because that tour is right after New Beginning, and so you got to figure it's going to set something up or be a or it's just a funsies match. I don't know.
It does feel like a funsies match.
But the format of it is the same as a casino gauntlet where if someone wins early, they don't even need 4 CMLL wrestlers.
Might be a tip-off right there if they only get 3 of them in there.
Only a couple dudes got on the flight. They're like, well, I guess that's that.
Just for doing this.
It's not a mask, you just fake it.
We're doing the
all
thing.
Right. Venkin is rooting for Hechicero, so maybe
we don't even know if Hechicero's in it. I'm assuming he is at this point, given that
I wouldn't know if I saw him around Cork, and I wouldn't know it. I don't have his name.
Big meaty dude. Don't know any big meaty dudes. We got Mina Shirakawa versus Mercedes Moné. This is a title versus title match in which Mina Shirakawa's Rev Pro Women's Championship will be put up against Mercedes Moné's New Japan Strong Women's Championship. I think the prevailing thought is that Mercedes Moné is going to win this match, but my concerns are exactly how many times is she going to go and wrestle on a Rev Pro show?
Once.
Yeah, I was going to say it's probably it seems like she probably has somebody over there that she wants to wrestle. And that's because part of this whole going away from WWE and being freelance is that she wanted to do the things she wanted to do, and she's got a deal with AEW that lets her do some of that stuff. So for Rev Pro, I'm sure they'd love to have Mercedes for a big show at some point. That would be a star that they haven't had yet. That would be fresh. So I'm leaning toward Mercedes winning this, and then probably whoever wins that match earlier in the night coming out and challenging her for whatever they have in mind. I mean, Mina's really good, but I also think Mina's probably headed toward the States here before too much longer. So, which doesn't mean take her out of this universe, because she'd probably be going to the company that works with New Japan. But Mercedes feels like the winner on this one to me, anyway.
The favorite.
Yeah. Mercedes is,
especially with both belts on the line.
Yeah, she's not losing. I don't know when she is. Honestly, she might disappear back into WWE land without ever losing, because that's the trajectory she's on.
So the interesting thing to me is that I kind of see Mercedes Moné as AEW Women's Championship material before the year is over, which means you kind of have to start dropping some titles. And in addition to that, and it's not really a New Japan problem, but for AEW to have Mercedes Moné walking around with multiple belts while their world champion is walking around with one kind of makes their own world champion seem lesser. It's not a problem I'm all that particularly worried about, but that is something in the back of my mind, is something that they might take into consideration.
I don't think they're worried about that at all.
I don't think they are either.
But I figured I would just put that out into the world as one of those random thoughts that I had about how you should properly book promotions.
I don't think they've thought about it.
No, I was just about to say that, Chris. The number of things that go into consideration at AEW is very different than the things you and I put into consideration.
All right, next match. We have probably one of the most snake bit matches that we've had in a very long time, in which Hinare was going to partner with the Great-O-Khan and face the Young Bucks at Wrestle Dynasty. Unfortunately, during the World Tag League, Hinare suffered a major knee and lower leg injury and is unable to participate. The titles have been vacated, but now Great-O-Khan is going to have a mystery partner and challenge the Young Bucks, and the winners will win the IWGP Tag Team Championship. That sounds incredibly complicated for us to say Great-O-Khan has a secret partner, but he's probably going to lose to the Young Bucks.
And not only that, Great-O-Khan got hurt not too long ago. He had to be pulled off the DDT show because he's banged up as well. But as of right now, Venkin is asking, is O-Khan wrestling? As of right now,
yes.
I think that was precautionary.
Yeah, I think it was more. It was just a flesh wound, if you will. But I don't think he wanted to wrestle on it and risk blowing up this match. Yeah.
I mean, this all tea leaves to me look like the Bucks winning this one, and then eventually facing Naito and Hiromu down the road at somewhere in there. But
I was convinced they were going to do the Naito Hiromu match in at Battle in the Valley, but then Hiromu got booked for.
They're going to do that match in Japan. Naito doesn't care about winning the titles in America.
I mean, does Naito care about winning the tag titles in general?
It might be fun for him to do it with Hiromu, but if they're going to win it, it's going to be in Japan.
I mean, kind of on that, just real quick, I do think all of this is moving towards Hiromu finally actually going heavyweight.
Probably, yeah.
I think so. When that match happens, and then Hiromu's a heavyweight tag champion, maybe it leads to never open weight, and then maybe a heavyweight run for Hiromu. So that's
a little bit funny. It's a little bit funny if that does go that way. Naito and Hiromu versus the Jacksons for the titles. We'll have 3 junior heavyweights competing for the world.
Yes,
for the world heavyweight tag team titles.
Hey, the Jacksons have held these titles before. They got,
I know.
Didn't they? They got some sort of they had got some cursory run with the heavyweight titles.
I was cursing.
Yeah, the logic to me would be Jeff Cobb being the partner for Great O'Khan, but do you guys have any thoughts about who it might be?
I think it's got to be a surprise, doesn't it?
Yeah, I feel like it's going to be somebody that's out of left field.
And like
who?
People are like, oh, what if it's Ospreay? And it's like, well, then you should have put him on the poster.
Taichi.
I guess, but so if it's Ospreay, that because of the United Empire stuff, but I don't see him interacting with the Young Bucks on AEW, so that doesn't make sense to me on a show that is theoretically co-booked. It's not Templario.
It's not Templario, right? He's booked in Mexico City, right?
Yes.
I doubt TJP and Akira, if they want to sell whatever they did the night before, that I don't think it would be them. Jacob Austin Young, God bless him. I don't think that's the spot for him.
Yeah, if that was going to be him, why would, if it was going to be anyone who's currently in United Empire and like active in United Empire, why wouldn't you just announce it?
Right.
Yeah.
It's a weird thing to keep as X unless you just, I mean, there's a chance they legitimately didn't know.
Have a partner.
Yeah, like
that's the part of like, X is whoever the Young Bucks decided they wanted to wrestle in that spot.
Maybe.
Keep in mind the last X turned out to be Ryusuke Taguchi, so it doesn't have to be something mind blowing, folks.
And he should have been the last X.
He might have been. Like, who the hell do we get? Lance can't come. Oh shit. Who's in town?
All right, moving on to the next one. We got Ishii facing the winner of the title versus title match from the night before, Shingo Takagi or Konosuke Takeshita. We have all kind of felt that it was going to be Takeshita winning this match. I think this match is probably going to be awesome as well. And Takeshita will probably win, but I don't care. What do you think?
This match is less obvious to me than the first night because Ishii is kind of dual wrestling these days too. I mean, the man didn't do the G1, but ended up doing a G1's worth of matches in Arlington, Texas with AEW. So
protected in New Japan. He's still very much protected.
Yes. But he's also pretty impenetrable, right? He can lose, specifically this match. He can lose and no one will bat an eye. So, but yeah, if this match should be Takeshita, Takeshita should win. It should be 14 minutes and it should be fucking awesome.
End of story. It's going to be just another fantastic, hard-hitting New Japan match. Just looking forward to it. Just enjoy it. I agree that Takeshi's probably going to win it, but it should just be fun to watch no matter what.
Yeah, I think Ishii is not booked strong enough in AEW programming for him to be walking around
to be the international champion
title. And that would be the only hitch in him winning it. But I don't think that the AEW audience would reject Ishii as any type of champion if he came on the screen with the belt.
I agree.
That they said he won in Japan. Or 2 belts that he said they won in Japan.
And he still won't know. Like he'll just be like, what are these? Sure, give me my things. I'll carry them to the ring.
We have the next of the special intra-promotional matches. Yota Tsuji versus Jack Perry. And if Yota Tsuji wins the night before versus David Finlay, this will be a global championship match.
House of Torture Jack Perry to me is a lot better than AEW Jack Perry, and certainly this whole Elite storyline doesn't make a whole lot of sense over there. So I'm happy that we're probably going to get the House of Torture version of Jack, which I thought was pretty effective when he was in New Japan over the course of this past year. So I think these guys will probably show up. I think this is going to be a pretty good match, and I think there will be some story to it, and there'll probably be some interference and things. And if Tsuji, pardon me, is the global heavyweight champion, it gives you the classic good versus evil story for him to overcome. And and if he's not, then you can still do that and just have him give him a recovery win here. So but Perry, that character, that scapegoat character, works better with House of Torture than it does the Elite, where he's allegedly rebelling against the people who suspended them by joining up with the people who suspended. The story makes no sense in AEW, but and it's suffering for that. It's kind of fumbling around a little bit, but here it can be a little more focused.
I agree. But I have never heard louder heat in a building than I did when Jack Perry showed up in Chicago. At the Windy City Riot. I mean, that was a wild scene, and I just kept laughing because I just was like, this is outrageous. And I get it, Chicago's not the Tokyo Dome, especially in regards to Jack Perry and CM Punk, and time heals all wounds and all that. But no reason to believe this won't be a pretty good match regardless. And I don't know that they still consider Jack Perry part of House of Torture. I think it's more of an adjacent thing. He also did the handshake with Shota Umino after the Windy City Riot match, which was sort of odd, didn't really align with character-wise, or someone who they expect to bring back into the fold in New Japan. But either way, a couple of young wrestlers that could be the future of a couple of different companies, at least in a upper mid card, maybe dipping a toe into the main event scene. No reason to believe this shouldn't be very good. Jack Perry's sort of on a tour of fighting this new generation too. So he had the situation with Umino and now Tsuji, who we know that Tony Khan really likes Tsuji. So if Tsuji needs a win over one of Tony Khan's kind of core dudes, 4 pillars, if you will, then I don't see that being a problem.
The statistical possibilities of Tsuji versus Okada were high in January of this year and of this past year in 2024. Then it went down for the majority of the year. And then around November, the statistical possibility of Okada versus Yota Tsuji started shooting up immensely. It went up even more with Yota Tsuji's comment about Okada being a geek that just says words and sticks the middle finger up in AEW, to the point that this actually feels like a heater match to me for Tsuji versus Okada down the line.
I think Tsuji's writing his own story on all
Good
that.
For him.
And he should.
Good for him.
No issue with it. I'm just saying I don't think anyone else is involved in that except for Yota Tsuji.
You know what they should do? You know what they should do, Chris, is they should just have Okada come out at some point. Just play his music, do the whole thing, have him stand in the ring, and then just let Yota Tsuji and Great-O-Khan battle each other down the aisle to try to,
to get a shot at
one is like pulling on the other one's jacket and yanking him back, and it'll just have it look like the dot race at a stadium game or something like that. I mean, try to get to the ring to face Okada because they're both going into business themselves to get the match.
Tsuji is not mincing any words. I mean, that man is very clear about how he feels about
he's
what
dropped all his
Okada
ammo
did.
in the chamber and he's unloading.
Yeah. And listen,
that's
same
pro wrestling, baby.
Same. I have all the same feelings as he does. So
I'm with you. All right. Let's keep the train moving. We have the mean guy match of the card. We have David Finlay versus Brody King. And if David Finlay retains the global championship the night before versus Yota Tsuji, this will be a global championship title match. I don't have much to say about this other than these two are going to beat the holy fuck out of each other. And it's going to be brutal. And I am absolutely here for it.
Yeah, it's a sleeper, isn't it? Because it will be an excellent match. I mean, Finlay's going to win either way. No matter what happens on the 4th, I feel like Finlay's going to win this. But you're exactly right, Jeremy. I mean, this is just going to be a slobber knocker, as the kids say.
All I'm watching for is whether David Finlay can get Brody King up for a powerbomb. Because if he can do that, I am all in on David Finlay.
You think they'll use
that's the spot, isn't it?
Yeah, I think they use the turnbuckle, but I think it's going to happen. I think it's going to be awesome.
Absolutely.
Finlay is deceptively strong.
Finlay
is deceptively powerful. He's
a Finlay. He's a Finlay.
Well,
it's
that's true.
The muscles they're just there.
Yeah.
I think there will be a similar aesthetic to the match, the way Will Ospreay and Brody King wrestled their match in Hammerstein Ballroom, with Finlay just kind of doing the whole, "Oh, you're a big mean guy, aren't you?" and then get into the meat of the match. But that size will definitely play a factor into this match.
Brody King's one of my favorite foes for good wrestlers. He is so good in his role. And he rocks. And he had that fun run with He Who Shall Not Be Named on the undercard of that Best of Super Juniors too. So he's familiar in Japan and they like him. So this is either way, it's gonna be fun. They're gonna go out there with good energy.
All right, next one we got, according to New Japan right now, we have a special singles match: Shota Umino versus Claudio Castagnoli. Now, if Shota Umino wins the IWGP Championship from Zack Sabre Jr., this will be an IWGP Championship match. We talked at the beginning of the show about the 60-40 Shota Umino possibly winning this match. Now, if he does win the IWGP title, I think we're going to have a really good match, but I do think that whether Shota wins or loses the night before, this is a win for him tonight.
Well, yeah, because it's going to set up his ultimate boss or an alignment with Moxley.
Right.
And I think somehow, some way, I think an alignment with Moxley could actually be the most interesting thing that happens if he loses. If he wins, I think he just beats Claudio in what could be a really tremendous main event. Tremendous main event, even though maybe the star power is not as hefty as you would imagine for a Tokyo Dome main event with these two companies, two, three, whatever companies involved. But Claudio can deaffinitely get a hell of a match out of Umino. If they want to make Umino look really good, even after a loss to Zach, and then ultimately come out with a W, Claudio's definitely the right guy to put him in there with, because Claudio is still one of the best in the world.
Right.
And he's humble in a way where you don't expect him to want to get his own shit in.
Yeah, and Shota is really walking in tall cotton right now. I mean, he's got Zack Sabre Jr. one night and Claudio the second night. I mean, this is, if you want to set a man up for success, this is how you do it. And it's a delivery system for Moxley at some point. Venkin has it. Is Moxley going to do a run in? I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility at all.
We'll know if he's on Collision and actually in the building, then no. If he isn't,
if he's on tape.
If he's on tape, there's a chance he's on a plane.
And then Fernando says Claudio should win. That's just a hot take right there. So I guarantee he's not winning the IWGP title. But if he would be a great match,
he would also be a great champion.
He would be.
Yeah. Oh, I've been saying a long time. He is my dream G1 guy.
G1
because I just think he could come in and have these incredible matches. I'm hoping to see him in G1 someday. I mean, Takeshita was wonderful, no complaints. But I would love to see Claudio in a G1. He's a New Japan type.
He feels like he's just at the right level in AEW to go do a G1.
Yeah.
Around
they
now.
They could go without him for a few weeks. He's not in that type of position, and they could do it. I'm hoping. Fingers crossed.
I was looking at Shota and Claudio at the Tokyo Dome, and I was thinking you can follow this up with Shota and Moxley at Dominion, and you can wrap up the whole AEW World Title with the Blackpool Combat or the Death Riders. And then Claudio can go to the G1 because that'll be free and clear all the way end of July going into middle of August before Forbidden Door at the O2 Arena right after the G1. It can all work. It's just a matter of the coordination between the companies if they want to, time things that right way. Because Shota should not be beating Moxley until someone in AEW beats Moxley for that world title. Then after that, Shota and Moxley can have whatever match they want, and Shota can win, and we finally get that graduation point that Conway was talking about earlier. Okay. We have Zack Sabre Jr. in a special singles match, potentially for the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship, against the challenger Ricochet from AEW. Now, if you've been following this show or paying attention to anything I say on social media, you can possibly understand that I've been a little frustrated with the booking of Ricochet, both in AEW and the booking of Ricochet towards this Wrestle Dynasty match, but I've exhausted that rant many, many times. And I am at peace with the fact that this may be a lame duck match, but will still probably be a tremendously well-wrestled match. I'm just not sure how invested I am at this point.
I know that this match is very featured on the posters and on the in the Tokyo New Japan store. A lot of big pictures of Ricochet and Zack. But Zack is the current champion, so you have to sort of assume that that is driving that. And this match was booked before most of the rest of the card. I am enjoying Ricochet's character work now. Mm-hmm. I agree with a lot of what you have said. Don't get me wrong, but I think they have sort of gotten to a point where he's a different kind of wrestler. He's got a different character than he had at the beginning of that storyline. So, and it is still an underwhelming match to me that like this is sort of the featured match between these two companies. Especially because Ricochet didn't even wait to show up in Japan. He did a great show. And he worked with, he connected with Shima and, all that stuff. And that he didn't even wait to like make his Japanese kind of re-debut in the New Japan, AEW universe. He showed up at a different show and now he's back for this. And I think this has this could, in a vacuum, this could be a tremendous match. But there's a lot of weird politics here.
Yes.
I don't have a great read on it. And that's part of why I hope it's not the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship match. But also like what Ricochet showed up and said he deserves an IWGP World Heavyweight Championship match. Like for what? For
Why?
Being a great junior heavyweight while you were in New Japan? Like,
do they hand out title shots for being in WWE?
I mean, so. Yes, but
yes, they do.
It's a strange thing, and I don't know. It's all fine. It'll be a good match. It's gonna be a good time.
We'll all have moved on by this time next week, and we'll all have stopped talking about it, and it's fun.
I really don't think this went any further than this will be really good.
Sure.
I mean, when they booked it, I think that's just like, we can get Ricochet. Well, that'll be a good match. Let's do that. I really don't think it went a whole lot further.
Well, and Ricochet, they were probably like, "Who do you want to wrestle?" And he was like, "Zack," and they were like, "Yeah, that'd
be good. Yeah,
yeah."
Be good.
Based off of what happened on AEW Dynamite last night, I put a 20% chance that Swerve Strickland shows up and costs him the title.
I don't think anyone from AEW is showing up.
I don't think so either. I'm just saying 20% chance. Like, they have done enough work where they're trying to make this Ricochet thing a thing. And they are flying by the seat of their pants. No, there are people legitimately telling me that they are rebooking all of Ricochet all of the time to the point where it's just like, I get why this has all happened the way that it happened. So
anyone on the AEW side that's flying to Japan is having a match.
Right.
Like
Fair
that,
enough.
I will be stunned if anyone from AEW shows up just as an appearance. I would love it. Don't get me wrong. I would love it. And especially like Moxley with the Shota stuff, I think that makes the most sense.
Mm-hmm.
But why wouldn't you just, I mean, Moxley was the IWGP World Heavyweight Champion like 6 months ago, and he's not on this show. That to me means he's needed.
Gamesmanship is afoot.
He's needed for Collision, which is an absurd thing to say out loud. But whatever, he is the champion there, and I get it. They've got their shows. But I think anyone who's taken that flight is wrestling a match, and they're doing it because they volunteered and they want to check the Tokyo Dome off their bucket list. And anyone who didn't have it on their bucket list ain't making the flight. So Swerve Strickland, if he wanted a match, they would have given him a match. If he wanted a Tokyo Dome moment, he would have gotten a Tokyo Dome moment. So I think what we've got are the guys on the card, and maybe a video. But they didn't even tell people where to watch the show, so they can't advance any AEW storylines. So I mean, they can.
That blew my mind that they never once mentioned.
Not once did they mention New Japan World. They mentioned the date. They mentioned New Japan Pro Wrestling. They mentioned Tokyo Dome.
Dynasty. They did not mention Wrestle Kingdom.
Right, but they never mentioned. Here's how you can watch this show that on the West Coast starts at a totally normal time.
I did more on my Twitter than AEW did.
Well, So either way, neither here nor there. Match should be good. I'm uninterested in the outcome, though.
Next match, the final match, according to Wrestle Dynasty, but probably not the main event, just the one that we are previewing. We have Kenny Omega in his return from wrestling after a 13-month injury, and we have Gabe Kidd challenging him from a backstage incident that is supposed to remind us of the CM Punk Kenny Omega issues. I don't really care about the backstory to this. I'm really interested in seeing how Kenny Omega is doing in the ring, the maturity of Gabe Kidd to be in the ring with a guy like Kenny Omega, and what this match layout is going to be like. Is it going to be Kevin Owens and Stone Cold like brawling with a couple of spots with Kenny Omega? Are we getting the Kenny Omega that we knew from the last 5 years, or are we going to start seeing a different Kenny Omega? These are the questions that I have. What are you guys thinking going into this match?
I think Kenny Omega might be wondering the same thing. I mean, that's a long time to be off. So I think this is kind of a testing the waters type of match for him. I'm sure he's done plenty in the gym and all that, and in rings and working out and things like that. But I think it's been a long time off for him. So I do think that he's really going to want to come out here and make this good. I mean, Kenny's going to be motivated. Gabe is certainly motivated because this is about as good a spot as he's ever going to get in. So, I mean, I expect them to turn out and do something really entertaining. I think Gabe has about a 0.01% chance of winning this thing. But that's okay. I mean, I just think that Gabe gets elevated by being here. So mission accomplished there. So I think this will be fun. I think that there will be some War Dogs type of brawling. I think Kenny will probably get a tour of the ringside area pretty good for a while. But once it gets in the ring, I think we're going to see Kenny. I think we're going to see Kenny be Kenny. That's what I'm hoping for anyway.
Yeah, and I think you hit the nail on the head. Like, this is Gabe's big spot, and there's a chance that Gabe is the number one contender headed into this match, because he's a guy who could win that Rambo, and he's an interesting person to put in that spot. And if that's the case, I'm not ruling out Gabe Kidd winning this match.
Really?
I'm not. The tradition in Japan is when you come back from injury, everyone thinks you're going to win, and then you lose. They're
not advertising this match on AEW.
Well, that's part of it too, right? That's
a fair point.
They're just not talking about it. So it does seem like a little bit of a stretch with Gabe and Finlay. My assumption of Finlay's trajectory, but there's a chance Gabe wins that Rambo. He's not booked on the Wrestle Kingdom card, so he may as well.
Do you run it back at Forbidden Door and Kenny gets his win?
Sure.
In August?
Yeah. Why not, right? I mean, Gabe's a guy, right? We know Gabe has all the potential in the world to do all sorts of stuff, and he has fallen into a character that seems to work in the situation he's in. So Kenny, this is not an accident that this match is happening. Kenny thinks he can have a good match with Gabe Kidd. Kenny could have picked anyone on the New Japan roster, and he picked Gabe Kidd. And that says something about, Gabe is a very skilled wrestler, even though he does more character work than anything else right now. I mean, the man, same deal, lived in the dojo through the pandemic, really grew up with the New Japan in the New Japan dojo and turned himself into a hell of a wrestler with a hell of a character. And I think, all things considered, Kenny Omega's probably winning this match because, and hopefully they've got some more dates on him for the rest of the year. So maybe he can pop in for Dominion or, whatever other power struggle, or maybe next year's Wrestle Kingdom Dome. Maybe he's Tanahashi's last opponent. I don't know. Right. But it's an interesting match from a match structure standpoint, and it's an interesting match from seeing one of the best wrestlers in the world come back from a huge hiatus standpoint.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's the chat is talking about this to Kenny special. They could make Gabe win. Personally, don't talk about this because they have Omega Okada planned, which is kind of what I was thinking too. They just had that stare down, but again, they're not promoting it. And then Maria Graciela Sayas, Kenny is Hart and Kid is Austin. He has in that one. So that's okay. Well, that's an interesting take on it. Is that that match that at WrestleMania 13 kind of made Austin, and it was a loss. If you have a brilliant match with Kenny Omega, it could help make Gabe Kidd. I mean, like I said, he's just being in this one is going to help him a lot. So
we did it, guys. We
covered
everything.
Not bad.
Hour 50 minutes. We were shooting for 90. We did it. I'm taking this as a win. Chris Samsa, let's do all your plugs. Get all your stuff in there.
Nothing to plug, really. I'll have my stuff up on Twitter, maybe some other social media places. What I am asking everyone does this year is when you watch Wrestle Kingdom, if you have a dog or a cat or a little furry friend, grab them, have a great time with them, give them an extra meal if you're getting up overnight. Watch wrestling with your pets. It's the best. Some of you may know I lost my best friend just a couple weeks ago.
I'm so sorry.
I have another buddy who's going to get up with me at 2 a.m. and we're gonna be watching Wrestle Kingdom and Wrestle Dynasty together. So I highly suggest that, and that is what I'm using my plug time to suggest of you guys if you can.
The show's dedicated to Ampersand.
Hell yeah.
That's fantastic, and our condolences are with you on that. I know exactly how that feels. It's brutal. So I'm sorry you're going through all that, but I'm glad you have another one there. So if I were back home, I'd be watching with my buddy Watson there. So I totally get it. Colin's asking, am I going to the TJPW show? Yes, sure am. Got my ticket. So that'll be my matinee show tomorrow, and then I will just all you have to do is walk out of the Korakuen Hall, turn left, walk up a flight of steps, and I'll be at the Tokyo Dome. So there it is. And I'm doing Stardom. I'm going to try to do All Japan today and then Stardom. We'll see how all that works out. So I'm going to see as much as I can.
I want to thank you again for making time for us right before Wrestle Kingdom. This was a great show for you to make time for. Thank you, everyone, for checking in. Steven and I are going to be back Saturday at 5:30 p.m. Eastern and Sunday 5:30 p.m. Eastern to recap both shows. Immediately after, I'm going to be spending pretty much all of Saturday watching New Japan Pro Wrestling because I'm going to be airplane moding it and watching in the morning, and then doing this show, then watching Collision, then watching Dynasty with my friend Dave, who is insane and has decided that this is what we're going to do, and I have to facilitate it for him. So I love my life. Thank you again to you both. We will see you Saturday, 5:30 p.m. Eastern. This has been Speaking of Strong Style, and we will talk to you again real soon.